Kia ora, my name is Amit Prasad. I'm just walking into the Pinnacle boardroom for the board deliberation for today. Ko te mihitua tahi ki te atua, ko te mihitua roa ki te ngamate. Ko wai au no Fiji au ko ke asi te maonga, ko Nandronga te iwi, ko Kawhanasau te hapu, ko Singatoka te awa. Ko Amit Prasad toku ingoa ke te makimakarau e noho ana. So my name is Amit Prasad, born and bred in the coral coast of Fiji. And have been residing in this wonderful country for the last 2 decades. I am the independent chair of the Pinnacle board, but also chair the PHO arm, which is the trust board. So really privileged to have that position, and really privileged to be able to sort of contribute to the mahi of this wonderful organization. It's very close to my heart, and it's also very close to the principles and the values that I have grown up in Fiji. I'm based in Auckland, but my walk takes me across the motu, including quite a lot of travel through the Midland as well. In terms of what makes me grounded, I guess it's my whānau, my immediate family, my extended family, but also sports. Being from Fiji, I'm a keen follower of both rugby league and rugby. So there are times that we have tensions around the home, around Crusaders versus the Chiefs. So that's me. The 3 independent directors and the 4 GP directors. That's the construct of the board. I think we go through a very rigorous process in terms of getting together an independent appointment. We go through the skills matrix that's required. We try to assess what the gaps are and then go to the market accordingly, go through a proper interview process, and then obviously the entire thing comes back to the board through the panel recommendation, and the final decision is made by the board. I think one thing that I'll say in line with that is, it's incumbent on the independent directors that we have the confidence of the GP directors who's appointed us, that we actually serve with that confidence. I guess it's the overall governance aspect of it, and obviously the independents bring in finance, bring in risk management, bring in the stewardship of governing an organization such as Pinnacle, and I think that requires quite a lot of rigor. I think if you look across the 3 that we have, it's part of the board. Collectively they sit across more than a dozen boards, but also through different sectors. My other substantial health sector board is Hatohone St. John. I sit on the board, I chair the Risk and Audit Committee, I'm on the Clinical Governance Committee, and also sit on the St. John International Risk and Audit Committee, which is headquartered out of London. I think the balance is very important in terms of the makeup and the construct of providing that independent and objective view. The independents bring that, but equally the GPs are the ones who are actually on the ground. They're the ones who offer us the lived experience. They sit with the patients. They are the ones who have the communications out there in the practices. They run the practices. They actually are walking through the machinery of what's required in a situation and dealing with a primary care system that we have. So combined with the objective and independence nature of what the independents bring, and the sector experience, but also the breadth of experience around risk, around oversight, around finance, around technology, and you complement that with the clinical governance knowledge that the GP directors bring, I think that's a very good combination. Look, that's something that is very dear to my heart, and something that I make sure that I actually practice as the chair in terms of making sure that those GP voices are heard. I will actually call out to ensure that any major decisions before they are made, I've heard from the individual GPs around the table. And I'll go back to my point, we've got 7 directors around the table, we've got 4 GP directors. I make sure as a chair that I've heard from each of the directors who have the GP background before a final decision is made. And I won't necessarily actually move on that decision as chair or as a board until and unless we've actually canvassed the views of all the GPs. So anything that we make as a final decision needs to have that clinical overlay, needs to have that clinical governance, need to have the GP voice around it. I'll reflect on what we have around the table in terms of our GP directors, and then of course talk about the independents. We have Dr. Hayley Scott, who obviously resides in Te Arawa and runs Te Arawa Clinic and practice. She's obviously very big about rural and province and brings that voice to the table. We have Dr. Giles Turner. I'm very lucky to have him. He's just joined us last year, 1 year in from Taupo, Lake Central. And then we've got Dr. Kiyomi Kitagawa, who's based out of Taranaki, and she's very deeply rooted in the Taranaki district as well as in the community, and we're very lucky to have someone of her caliber. And finally we have Dr. Tamatoa Blakelock, who's based in Hamilton or Central Hamilton. The one thing about Dr. Blakelock is also bringing a Pacifica lens or Pacific community lens to the discussions that we have around the table. So in terms of the independents, we've got Manu Sione, based out of Auckland, but he's got connections throughout the Waikato region. Also in the Te Rāwhiti through his connections there in his whānau. Tokomaru Bay is where he's got his connections with. And then we've got a very strong Maori wahine, Michelle Nathan, again based in Waikato, has had a lot of mahi that she's done over time with Waikato Tainui, and has been a wonderful addition to the board over time. And then finally it's myself. So I think when I look across and sit back around the chair, what do I see? I actually see Midlands. I see the geography, I see the people, I see the community representation across the board when I look at the board. So in some ways we are very lucky to have a very diverse board, both in terms of the geography but also in terms of the representations from an experience perspective. So I think we're very lucky in that space.